All right, folks, today we have the coaches here. We have the cross-country coach known as Brady Bonsall. We have our soccer coach. He's brand new and he's excited to get up here and talk in front of all of you, Rob Breton. Also, we have UNK football coach Josh Lynn and the dean of coaches at UNK, Rick Squire. So, with that, to give you the kickoff of this Loper extravaganza for the fall, please welcome the athletic director, Dr. Mark Bauer.
Great crowd. Thank you so much for being here. Exciting time of the year, obviously. Dr. Bisick, you know what I'm talking about when all the students come back to campus. I actually came out of the office this afternoon and our main hallway, we call it Main Street. It literally looked like Main Street. We had a lot of students back in the building, and so it's live, it's vibrant, and it's exciting. So two things come to mind this time of the year. One, right now, just pride and being proud of what we see going on at UNK on our campus and then within our community. There's just so many wonderful things going on, and so it just makes you feel proud to be a part of this community and the campus community as well. So that's exciting. And the other thing is just the spirit, just the feeling. We have gone through almost all of our compliance meetings with our student athletes, and they're giddy, they're excited, they're ready to get going. And fall's here. It's hard to believe they're through their training camps. I think they've gotten to know each other pretty well. I've listened to the coaches talk a little bit about their programs, and I know they're excited as well. So I don't know who we're going to start with first, Rich. Does it matter?
It'll be Rick, and I got it.
It is Rick. Okay, so come on up here.
I got to introduce.
You introduce him. So anyway, look forward to seeing all of you at all of our events and enjoying yourselves. And oh my goodness, it's a book. Well, enjoy. Get to hear the coaches and come on up, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for being the captain of the ship.
You're first.
All right, it's time for you're here for to hear from the coaches. Now, I get to read this illustrious introduction. Our first speaker, he started 24 seasons ago, and it's 39 officially if you take out the COVID year, but it's 24 total. You've been at UNK since 1999. He is the third coach in school history. Believe it or not, isn't that crazy? Rosella Meyer, Patty Sartorius, and this guy right here. So it's pretty amazing in our history of UNK volleyball. At the helm, Coach Squires has led UNK to 2 national runner-up finishes, 21 NCAA tournament appearances, 4 Elite 8 appearances, 16 RMAC and MIAA regular season crowns, and 11 conference tournament titles. This year's team starts the season ranked 10th in the ABC Division II preseason poll. And to tell you more about it, please welcome the Dean of Coaches, Rick Squire.
Thank you, Rich. I think we're going to say thank you. Well, first of all, it is an honor to be here, and seeing all this blue it's kind of got me going, Carol. This looks great. This definitely is a reminder that it is that time of the year. It kind of feels a little bit normal too this time around. Last time we were still a little jumpy, and so we are excited about the Loper volleyball season, and it's hard to believe that it's been that long. But we do have a nice group this year. We actually have 26 athletes this year. We had about the same number last year. We started letting our roster expand a couple of years ago, playing some junior varsity games, and that's been, I think, a positive for us. So I think we got 15 to 18 of those matches on the schedule this year, and it allows us to kind of develop players. But the one thing a little bit different about this year is we have 10 freshmen, and so there are some veterans returning and not. So far, it looks like a lot of those things have been relaxed, and that's why, even going into last year's first tournament, I mean, we were looking at getting on a plane to go to New York, and all the things we had to deal with there, and we had to test, twice before that tournament, and so it does thankfully look like and feel like something that is a lot more normal, and we're thankful for that. That's for sure.
So you've got a lot of new young freshmen. How long has it been since you've had a team this young, and do you remember what it was like coaching?
I don't think I do remember what it was like. I should, because I've had a few of those. It's probably been since the days that Morgan Studi from Kearney Catholic and that group was freshmen. Lindsey Smith was a freshman setter. They went on to do some wonderful things, but that first year, it's trying because you want them to figure it out, and there's just no substitute for experience. And even though they come from great programs and they want to be good, they have to go through it a few times, and it's different. And being away from home is different. We're dealing with a little bit of that. It's a talented group. It really is. I mean, I kind of look at them, and I think they're going to do wonderful things here, but it's never fast enough for you as a head coach, obviously. So we're trying to be patient with them, and they are hard workers. Another thing that's been, this year we have another new coach on board. That is Sam Hammond. Some of you remember her as Sam Harvey, who played on the 05 National Runner-Up team. And she's spent a number of years coaching over in Lexington, and has a wealth of experience now. And so it's been good to have her kind of on board, and she's working with different positions. And obviously we have Dr. Fritz in here to kind of keep their heads all on straight as our chief sports psychologist, and she will be overworked this year with this group. And maybe me too. I think that's probably the most of it. But yeah, it's been a while, and we're trying to remember that. But there's some fun in that too. I'll try to remember that too the first time somebody whoops us. There is some fun in watching that growth happen, because there's a lot more growth with a younger team usually than there is with an older team. Good stuff. All right. Back to you, Rich.
Thank you.
It's my 34th, buddy. So watch out. So how ironic, of the year we play volleyball, and who retires? Rick Squire's favorite opposing coach, Flip Piontek from Central Missouri. And now we're going to do replay. How about that? So, right, Coach? We're doing replay this year?
Sure.
Yes, we are. So there might be, if he pulls the yellow card, sit back for 3 minutes on review. It's just the way it is. All right, so just to recap, this weekend on Friday at 12 noon, they play Minot State. At 6 o'clock, Midwestern State in Texas. Then on Saturday at 12 noon, it's the University of Sioux Falls. And then the capper, which he said is probably the one that's got a little notoriety behind it, because they're getting votes in the top 25. You know, we're ranked 10th. And that's at 6 o'clock against Central Washington. So that's what's volleyball this weekend. All right, moving on to the people that like to run in the fields and through the neighborhoods. This coach started his 16th season as a head men's and women's cross-country coach. During his time at UAK, he has seen student athletes qualify for the NCAA Division II championships in both cross-country and track, set numerous school records, and earned All-American and Academic All-American honors. In 2021, the men's cross-country team competed at the National Championship meet, where they finished 25th, and Coach Bonzel was named the 2021 MIAA Women's Cross-Country Coach of the Year. And I think with the 25 finish, that's also in the poll. You finished 25th in the poll, right? With the United States Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association.
Yeah, they don't do it into the season.
Oh, they don't do it. Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the second in line on Deans of Coaches. Please welcome Brady Bonzel.
I too will miss Flip from Central Missouri, because someone looking a little bit like me might have gone to a track team meeting about 5 years ago and told a story about how at our alma mater, or at my alma mater, there was a basketball coach in the conference named Norm. And so some of you might remember Sit Down Norm, Sit Down Norm. And I might have told that story, and that might have initiated a process of Sit Down Flip taking place for the next several years. And so when it got a little contentious, I felt not one bit guilty about it, that someone responsible for it. So, okay, as a teacher, I'm really bad. I use my hands all the time, so I'll just apologize if I'm doing this when I talk to you because I tend to do that. I totally do that. Okay, for our track and field team, our cross country team, I look at cross country as just one season within our track and field year. Okay, so we have outdoor track during the spring, we have indoor track in the winter, and then in the fall we have cross country, and all the people that aren't distance runners just have to train really hard, you know, without getting to compete. So the distance runners just kind of get this bonus season in the fall that's kind of uniquely team oriented. It's just a little bit different than the way the rest of the track season is set up. But you know, as we look back at last year, for our program as a whole, between cross, indoor, outdoor, men and women, between the men going to nationals in the fall, the women winning the conference meet in the fall, the indoor season, again, the men finishing right around 20th in the country, the women starting the year struggling, injuries, lots of things in the way, discussions in the track office about can we score 10 points at the conference meet, gaining some momentum towards the end of that season that carried into the outdoor season, and in the outdoor season the women scored as many points as they ever have at the MIAA conference meet. You know, had All-Americans on both sides. I think what we saw last year with our men's team between the indoor conference meet and the outdoor conference meet is a little bit of it's a good microcosm of the fine line there is for us between being really successful or falling back just a little bit. We went into both meets with a chance to be about top 4 in the conference. At the indoor conference meet, we knocked it out of the park, did everything right that we could, ended up getting second at the conference meet. At the outdoor conference meet, fell on our face in 3 events and ended up 6th. Otherwise, the same team, having successful seasons, doing well at the national meet, but just at that conference meet, just so we always talk about how we don't have a lot of margin for error, but we are capable of being pretty good. Okay, and I used in talking to Josh Lynn, I kind of even mentioned, hey, if TJ doesn't score a touchdown in the last minute 3 times last year to barely win a game, right? Then maybe rather than second in the conference. So same thing. It's like they had what we had for the indoor conference meet, but just this little margin for error could have been on the other side. But that's a little bit what the MIAA conference is. That it's just so good across the board that even when our women won the conference cross country meet, when that day started, I knew we could be anywhere from 1st to 6th, and we just happened to get 1st that day. And so we graduated from that group. Maddie Zoe Destiny, who kind of been the face of the program for the last several years for us, kind of again because of COVID. They didn't come back and have a 6th-year COVID year, but they would have used up their eligibility in 4 years. But all of them had a reason academically to be back here a 5th year. And we knew that very early on back in spring of 2020. So they came back, and that was a big part of the reason for them to win that team to win a conference title. Those 3 move on. And so the culture, the identity of the team absolutely changes. But in a good way, as we wrapped up the track season last year, as we finished off our year, our top 2 scorers for our women's track team at the outdoor conference meet were a mid-distance runner in Mara Hammer and then a distance runner with Grace Bonzel, who are back and now will be those top 2. So even though we sort of graduated the identity of the team, or what's been the identity team for a long time, we ended up, at the end of the day, bringing back our 2 best performers from our most recent season for this year. The women's team has more depth than it's had in the past, just good recruiting class. I wouldn't say, knock it out of the park, amazing, hey, we got this superstar coming in, but back-to-back years, so our freshman and sophomore classes have some good depth there. On the men's side, the fact that it's a festival year and all the championship meets are happening 2 weeks later than normal, so conference will be 2 weeks later than normal. Regionals will be on the day of our normal national meet, so D1 and D3 will be having their national meets on the same day we're having our regional meet. And then if we're fortunate enough to go to the national meet, we get to come back after Thanksgiving and go to nationals. So it kind of extends it out. We don't love the schedule in terms of how it affects the transition to indoors, but it's probably good that our top 3 guys from last year's cross-country national meet, all 3 of those guys competed in Michigan in May around Memorial Day at the NCAA championships in outdoor track. So their summer was 2 weeks shorter. So we can approach this year a little, their summer was 2 weeks shorter. Hey, that's okay. Season's 2 weeks longer. They're going to race next week, and probably our top guys anyway are going to race next week and then not race for a month. Because then even when they start racing again, it's still 7 weeks till the regional meet. If they were to make nationals, 9 weeks till nationals. So we've got a lot of time to work with, which is good because we have a guy hurt right now and he needs to get better. And so we have time to work with. But it's kind of the leaders of that team. Miles Baca was a transfer from Gonzaga a year ago, which sounds much more impressive if he's a basketball player, but he's still really good. And he's our school record holder in the 10K. 29-23, which is like running 440 mile pace for 6 miles. Okay. Luke Stuckey, who's a 344 1500 runner, that's about a 402 mile. 402 is what he ran when he anchored our distance medley at the national meet last year. Ben Arns, who's All-American in the steeple for us, came up just short of our school record, one second short of our school record at the national meet last year. Those are our top 3 returning guys, with Nick Abdallah and Justin Broman kind of being the 4th and 5th guys. But we have, again, from 6th through 10th, 11th, I think some pretty good ones. So even this injury we're dealing with Abdallah right now, we can probably withstand that a little bit early in the year. I think we might need him later in the season, but we won't need him right away. So, anyway, that's kind of an overview of the season, the team, last year. I know you have tons of questions. Yes.
You mentioned the name Grace Bonsall.
Yes.
Is she by any chance related to you?
No, to my wife.
Is she here?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we have a daughter at home who's nonverbal, autistic, has absolutely 0 physical limitations. She's a hard worker, and I don't know how talented she is, I don't know how good she is, but man, she's a hard worker. Well, last year she started to reap the rewards of some of that work she was doing. Yeah.
Who are your top 5 women?
That's a great question. Mara and Grace, and the numbers 3, 4, and 5. Yep. and that's we don't. And I was talking to a freshman about that yesterday, just kind of explaining to her that we don't do anything in the first 3 weeks that indicate to me at all. But like if I do stuff in the first 3 weeks, it gives me an idea what our pecking order is. I'm probably doing things that don't benefit us in terms of being good when we need to be good, which is going to be in November. So I oftentimes, you go up to the first meeting, some coach shakes your hand. How's your team look this year? I'll tell you in an hour, because I really don't know at that point. And so even as we're doing workouts, I'm not real set. In some ways it's good how it's hot out, and I'm having to just tell them, hey, just kind of work out by feel, that kind of perceived effort. To work out that way, because if I were to give them paces anyway, they wouldn't be accurate, because until we race, I really don't know where they're at. So, how many of you have a GPS watch? Bower, you got a GPS watch, right? So you know exactly how fast you're going all the time. That makes it hard when it's hot like this, and you those watches in some ways have ruined the young runner's ability just to race, just to train and run by feel and perceived effort. They're controlled by that number on their watch, and so that can be hard when conditions aren't perfect.
How many kids do you have out for both men and women?
We got 39 total. We got 22 guys, 17 gals, and probably the biggest difference in the 22 versus the 17 is we got 3 or 4 800 guys, 800-meter guys who aren't really cross-country guys. If you think back, Jerry's son, Colton, graduated here. He was an All-American for us on the distance medley, 149, 800 guy. He would contribute in cross-country, though. He's run at the regional meet for us at one point. His buddy, Max Landerman, who came in and was a 5th-year senior with him last year, never anywhere close to contributing in cross. But I want all those.
Trying to be patient with them, and they are hard workers. Now, another thing that's been, this year we have another new coach on board. That is Sam Hammond. Some of you remember her as Sam Harvey, who played on the 05 National Runner-Up team. And she's spent a number of years coaching over in Lexington, and has a wealth of experience now. And so it's been good to have her kind of on board, and she's working with different positions. And obviously we have Dr. Fritz in here to kind of.
So how does the cross-country differ, since it's more of a team situation versus individual? How does that affect you as a coach?
That's a good question, because you step to the line, gun goes off, 25 minutes later we're done. It all happens right then. We're in a track meet, things happen throughout the course of the day. And you can have momentum build, or the opposite happen too. You can have the wheels fall off throughout the course of the day. Whereas in cross, it all just kind of happens at once. What I have to do better at as a coach is I have to be the same coach during cross-country season as I am during track season, because I feel like I do a much better job of individualizing things for people during track. And it's easier to do because you have different, someone that has a little more, who's just older and can handle a bigger volume. You have 800 runner versus the 10K runner. They don't all need to do the same thing. In cross, what is kind of nice is everybody's kind of on a similar training plan. But I feel like we sometimes perform better in track. If you ever notice, our distance runners tend to, even though we won a conference meet last year, or the men went to the national meet, our distance runners have actually been better on the track, and I think that's because I do a better job of individualizing. So how do I individualize in cross without making it a situation where you're doing one thing and you're doing one thing, and then when you beat you, now you come to me and say, I think I should be doing what he's doing. So you see what I'm like, so dealing with that a little bit. But yeah, it's kind of, it's very, I think track and wrestling are more alike from a team dynamic than track and cross country are. Because in a wrestling tournament, things happen throughout the course of the day, whereas in cross, it happens in a pretty short period of time. Anything else? All right.
Okay, I heard you on the radio the other day say you may send 10 guys there and they all run. So you don't necessarily have a first to fifth guy.
Right.
Top 5 score in every meet.
Regionals and nationals, we can run 7, 5 score. Conference, we can run 10. But the 8th, 9th, and 10th guys just get thrown out when they cross the line. The regular season meets, I can run all 22 people if I want. But again, 8 through 22 just get thrown out when they cross the line. Yep, that's what happens. So. All right. I think I went over time, but that's because you asked questions.
Thank you, Coach Bonzel. Their first meet will be up in Sioux Falls at the Augustana Twilight on September 2nd. I think the ladies run at 8:30. Am I right, Brady? 8:30? Is that when the girls run at the Augustana?
It's dark, that's all I know.
8:30 and I think 9:15, something like that.
They turn on the lights in the soccer.
Thank you, Professor Bonzel. I really appreciate that.
Low 6, lots of low 6.
Oh, cool. A little activity, a little fun. There you go. All right, thank you, Coach. Now we move on to the rookie now as a coach. We're glad to have him here. I'm going to take my time as I read this synopsis on our new soccer coach, folks, because I will fumble a few of these names. Coach Rob Breton was tabbed as the 4th head women's soccer coach in Nebraska Kearney history in April. He spent the past 3 years as an assistant women's coach at Division II Alderson Broaddus University in West Virginia. At AB, he also assisted with the Battler men's soccer program and worked with Clarksburg's Excel Football Club. Prior to that, he worked the Empire Football Club and the Marion Football Club, and also helped create and manage the Appalachia Steel Football Club, a men's amateur club working towards USPL and/or NYSA status. On the bench, she helped win the 2018 Men's Amateur State Cup. Did I get all those correct?
Pretty darn close.
Oh, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor. And glad to welcome to Kearney and welcome to the Loper family. Ladies and gentlemen, Rob Breton.
I appreciate being here. This is an honor to finally be a head coach, let alone being in such a prestigious university that has a great community involvement. Coming from my previous school in West Virginia, they always say that West Virginia is very hospitable and people are very well connected, but it's very different when it comes to the communities and the schools. In West Virginia, it's very much, the school is here, they fund the town, the people deal with the students. Here it's the complete opposite. Like, I had to get used to Nebraska Nice, going into a grocery store and just having people talk to me because they saw my face and they're like, oh, you were on Doug and Daddy and I want to talk to you about this. So it's something that I'm still trying to adjust to a little bit. Growing up in Maryland, and it's a completely different type of personality, but it's been welcoming from day one. It's been overwhelming with how nice everyone is and how supportive and how resourceful the school is in regards to everything that we have. So I'm very excited for the program. I'm really excited to talk to all of you and tell you more about the program, what we're going to be doing, and how it's going to be much different than what you've experienced in the past. You can't can't hide the situation. The program hasn't been the best, and that's okay, because the thing is that just makes it easier to be better. That just gives us the opportunity to find that change and to find that culture switch. A great example is during the summer, I worked with Coach Shane Stock. If you don't know him, he's one of our strength coaches at the school. This man lives and breathes in the weight room. Like, I'll see him at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he doesn't leave until 8 o'clock at night. And he has gone out of his way to really make sure that these players came in fit. This is the first time in a single preseason that we haven't dealt with a season-ending injury in preseason in the last couple of years. But we have 26 great players returning. We do have 2 girls from injuries last year that are still coming back. One being Molly Platt, a senior midfielder. Another one being Emily Flowers, who is a sophomore midfielder. Emily being a Puerto Rican national team player for the U17 team. So I felt bad for her because she didn't get to play in the World Cup this summer. She was invited to play. She had to have hip labrum surgery right before the summer kicked off. But I told her, I was like, don't worry, once you're fit, you're going to be in that U20 pool. We're going to make sure that you're in there, you're competing, and your coaches have it. And, we're already trying to set up connections where me and my staff can travel out there and go visit their national teams and start recruiting from some international situations and setups. So this year, realistically, our conference is one of the toughest soccer conferences in the country. We have UCM is number 6 in the country this year. Emporia is number 14 in the country. UCO was ranked top 25 at one point. Northeastern was ranked top 25. So to have 4 teams in your conference that are nationally ranked says enough about the type of competition we have here. I can tell you this, you can take our team right now and put them in most of other conferences in the country, they'd be able to compete and be at least mid-table. So we have a bunch of hard-working girls. We're running more, we're much more fit than we have been in the past. I bought them all GPS trackers this summer, so it's a little tracker that you put on your back similar to Mark's watch, and it'll tell me, how much are they running, how hard are they running, how much intensity are they doing, what's their heat map. So I actually get a picture of a map of the field with a heat sensor showing where they've been on the field, so I can say, are you out of position, or are you in position? I can tell you this, we're running twice as many miles in distance in a regular game than they did at their peak last year. Now, that's awesome. It shows that we're getting to that fitness standard, but aimless running means nothing. So we have to start learning how to play with an intent, with a purpose. And that's something that I think, I've kind of learned from the coaches at the school here is everything has a purpose, everything has an intention. You see the way that Coach Bonsall, Coach Flynn, Coach Squires run their program. There's intent with everything they do, from the recruiting to the communications with alumni to communications with the community and how they teach their kids to develop. And that's something I'm really excited to be a part of. And I think this is going to be a really good year. So I'm going to let you guys fire away with questions, because it's going to be easier for me to answer questions than to tell you what we're going to do rather than just show you what we're going to do. Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate you're going to be doing more international recruiting for your team?
Without question. I had a phone call yesterday with a girl from Australia in Brisbane, and then the day before that I was talking to a girl from Liverpool in England. I'll put it like this. At my previous institution, I recruited 4 Colombian players there. I had a Honduran international player. During my time in college, I played with players from 5 different continents. All of them I'm still friends with, and they're well connected in the industry. One of my previous teammates played in the FA Cup, which is one of the largest English international cups that you can play in. And they're all constantly sending me players. And I'm still well connected as well in that network of West Virginia soccer, that they actually have a large group of English-based players and coaches there. They're always looking for someone to send. And I can tell you this, an $18,000 a year institution compared to a $42,000 a year institution, much easier to sell.
Young squad, a lot of veterans, or?
So we have 8 incoming freshmen, 1 transfer who's a sophomore. We have 3 returning sophomores, 2 returning juniors, and 12 returning seniors. All 12 seniors have a 5th year because of the COVID year that gave them the opportunity. But we've had an honest conversation in the spring and said, you need to show me that you deserve to come back for your 5th year. Not, you've been here for 4 years and we get to come back for a 5th year. Like, I want players who want to be here and who want to put in that work and who want to make the change, not just say they want to make the change. Yes, sir.
What's showing up early, offense or defense more?
Defense is showing up much more quicker. Even in the Hastings game where we didn't have a good situation, it was a lot of learning experience. I'm teaching them a different system and how things adjust. We're taking more risks going forward, so she's normally a midfielder, but she's going to try and convert to a center forward for us because she has the attributes that work with it. But it's a little bit of teaching different habits and cues and triggers that come with it. Like when this happens, what are you looking for, rather than, well, this is what I've always done. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Rob, feel special because you've been asked questions by Randy Bushcutter, former MTV sports anchor back in the early 90s. Sorry.
Real early.
Real early. And if you want to catch the soccer program, they're in action this weekend, right? Up at Foster Field, Cope Stadium at 2 o'clock on Friday, taking on Winona State. And then on Sunday at 2 o'clock, you're taking on Southwest Minnesota State, right? The team from Marshall, Minnesota. All right, good luck this year. Thanks, Rob. All right, we move to our final speaker. He doesn't need an introduction, does he? How you doing over there? This coach was named UNK's 18th head football coach in 2017. He's a native of New Mexico. Is it Eunice?
Eunice, just like
Eunice.
Just like the Conference Center.
All right, Eunice, New Mexico, Eastern New Mexico University graduate in 2021. Last year, the Lopers earned a spot in the NCAA Division II playoffs, falling to the Angelo State Rams in the second round. The team finished second in the MIAA, ranked 15th in the final poll of the AFCA. This year, we're preseason ranked 13 in D2 poll and 14 in the AFCA. And to tell you a little bit more about it, please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the head football coach at the University of Nebraska-Kearney, Coach Josh Lynn.
Hey, I thought I'd start off the night, since we're talking about previous, since we're talking about, I guess in this case in volleyball, Flip, the previous Central Missouri volleyball coach, I will not bring up the current football coach at the University of Central Missouri. So, if you don't know that, just Google it. All right. Hey, I'm sorry, Brad. You're probably hear the same speech tonight as I gave last night. You were there too, right, Stan? So, I will tell you this. I have a little one, Levi Lynn. Okay, he gives his mom a lot of headaches over all the time. Okay, he's a 6-year-old. Well, in the summer, that's probably a month ago, he comes home from wherever he was at. He goes, "Mom, I need to get karate." And his mom goes, "Okay, we can, talk about it." And she goes, "Why do you want to get karate?" He goes, "Well, I just need the punches. Because the kicks I've already got down." All right? So, anyways, that's kind of where the Lopers are this year. All right? We've got some kicks down, but we need to bring some punches with us. All right? So, needless to say, I guess my 6-year-old's a black belt in kicks and karate. So, we just got to work on his punching. So, hey guys, thank you for coming. I mean, what we've done and what we've done to this point has direct correlation to the people in this room. I'm super appreciative of you guys. I will say a couple summer events that we did with UNK football this summer that Rich planned that turned out to be really successful. We had a football alumni get together out in Denver, Colorado, and I think we had over 30 people 30 UNK football players show up for that. And then we had one later in the summer at Champions Run. It was Champions Run? Was Champions Run? Yeah. Okay, in Omaha. And what was our total count of UNK football players at that event?
Well, I would say close to 50.
Close to 50. Yeah. So I mean that's good. I mean we're starting to get people involved in those distant Lopers, and those were both nice events that the foundation did for us. UNK football, okay. I think last year we had a good year. I think we had some notches still left in our armor. We had some needs that we needed to address. We had some really good seniors that left that we needed to address. I'll just start on the offensive side of the ball. Our offensive line, we lost our right tackle and right guard, who were both all-conference players. However, I will say this: we've replaced them. We've replaced them with young men who have been in our program. I'll just give you this stat. I gave this stat out last night. I have 22 offensive linemen. I'm the offensive line coach. Okay, 15 of those young men have been with me now 3+ years. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. I mean, that's, and you know, it's really nice to have young men in your program that you can just bump up, and you know, that credits to our weight staff, and you know, just, I think maybe the overall experience, I mean, that helps. And I will tell you this, we don't puke in practice, okay? So, we don't do 15 to 20 pukes in practice, okay? That's another inside joke, Google it, all right? So, you know, and then often, you know, so, you know, I feel we're pretty good. You know, the offensive line last year, we kind of mainstayed with 5 to 6 offensive linemen. This year is probably going to be offensive. You know, our left side's pretty intact. The right side will be kind of offensive line by committee. We're going to roll a lot of guys in there, and that's good. I mean, we got good depth there. Running back, we got 4 out of our 5 running backs last year returning. The Kearney High kid, Miko Masoner. You know, Montrez Jackson now is going on his 5th year with us. We have another one, Damian Kearns, who's a 3rd-year kid. Garrett Meyer is a 6th-year kid at running back. And so we feel pretty good about that position. All those guys have played, and they played a lot in the MIAA. I think Montrez was our 2nd leading rusher last year. You know, the next one is wide receiver core. We returned both starting wide receivers from the previous. Now, we did lose 2 out of the top 4 receivers this year, but our 2 starters are back with Cody Nelson and Xavier Delk. Both of those young men have been with us 4+ years. You know, you look at the H-back position. This has kind of been the biggest surprise for us. We do have a 6-year kid there named Thomas Tews. Thomas Tews is a young man from Omaha that'll be our starter. And maybe the biggest surprise out of anybody in the camp, we have a freshman tight end named Luke Blatchford. Okay, he's a kid out of Lincoln Southeast. And you know, we were really high on Luke coming out of high school, but we weren't when he got here. I mean, he jumped 2 guys right off the bat. I mean, he's that good a player. And so I'm really excited about him. You'll see it. Since I've been here, I've played 2 freshmen, true freshmen. Okay, there's another young man, and then Luke. Okay, and the other young man was a kicker. Okay, so that kind of just shows you where he's at. I mean, he's a pretty special young man. And then the quarterback position. All right, we survived the transfer portal. All right, T.J. Davis is back. You know, 2nd in the Harlan Hill last year. Gosh, he looks comfortable. He looks smooth. Not that he wasn't smooth before, but I mean, he's really. I think he's gotten better, if that's even possible. So he'll be exciting to watch. So that's kind of offensively. Defensively, we lost our 2 interior noses. However, we've replaced those guys. We've got a young named Anthony Orjawe. He's a transfer that we actually signed a year ago. He blew out a knee. He's a 6'5", 320-pound nose tackle. I mean, he's from Nigeria. Okay, he's a foreign kid, great kid, unbelievable kid. And so we kind of got, and then we also signed another one named C.J. Sinai. He's a national champion junior college All-American defensive tackle out of New Mexico Military Institute. So I feel really good about that position. At the interior nose, Tel Spees from Mullen, Nebraska was a starter. Baylor Helmuth from Hershey, Nebraska. Let's go, huh? Central Western Nebraska. If you look at our linebackers, all four starting linebackers are back. We did suffer an injury in camp on one of them, and it's just not looking good for him. We're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, so that'll probably be a redshirt situation. That one kind of hurt a little bit. But you look at the outside, 12 Fox, all MIAA player. J.C. Noter, who's been a 4-year starter, all MIAA performer. And then you look at the other side. Here's maybe the story of camp. All right. We had a graduate assistant last year. His name's Willie Fair. Okay? He was a graduate assistant for us last year. Well, he comes to me in the spring and he goes, "Coach, I've been looking around. I think I have a semester left." This is a true story. I'm not making this up. All right? Well, I said, "Okay, Willie, what do you want to do?" "I want to try to play." All right, so we go up to Rachel Page. Sure enough, he played at Azusa Pacific. Okay, and Azusa Pacific canceled their football program his senior year. Okay, so we went back, and sure enough, and then with COVID, all right, so sure enough, he's got a semester left. Well, let me tell you something about Willie Fair. He's a pretty stinking good football player, and he just rolled in from being a GA to one of our starting outside linebackers. All right, so hey Rick, if you find one that has an ear of eligibility, you're a GA, she might need it. Does she have another one left? Anna Squires? No, it's Maddie. I'm sorry, it's Maddie, right? So, that's, yeah. That's a true story. That's a true story, though. All right, and then it's kind of maybe even the Achilles heel that we've had since I've been here has been our secondary, most notably our corners. I feel as good as that position as I've had in a long time. Okay, we have right now we have 9 on the roster. Okay, out of those 9, 5 of those young men have been with us 3+ years. Okay, so they've all kind of grown up. If you out there on the edge, when it's wide receiver versus corner, I mean, if you have a kid with ADD, you're probably in trouble. All right, so I mean, you got to have a kid that's locked in. You got to have a kid that's focused, and I think maybe the maturity of that group will help us out a little bit this year, and that's a positive. And then the safety position, Darius Swanson, All-American last year for us. Out of Denver, Colorado. The other position, Blake Bubak, he was a senior. He graduated. We replaced that position with Seth Holt, who is a young man that's been in our program now for 5 years, and also a transfer named Trey Ogeen, who was a free safety from New Mexico Military Institute. And then if you look at special teams, Junior Gonzalez is back for a 3rd year, our place kicker. We have a kid named Kyle Failing who got hurt last year, who kicks off the tee on kickoff, and that really hurt us because he got hurt because he can put it out of the end zone every time. Okay, and maybe the kid I'm most proud of on our roster is our punter, Hunter Krause. Small school kid, walked on, has great talent. All right, he started working. All right, Kyle Larson, you guys ever heard of Kyle Larson? The Bengals punter. He got with Kyle Larson. All right, sure enough, he's developed, and he was a 2nd-team All-MIAA punter, and he's probably the best punter in the conference this year. I mean, he can bang it. So pretty excited about him, and that's kind of the makeup of UNK football. Guys, this is where we're at UNK football, all right? We have Montrez Jackson now is going on his 5th year with us. We have another one, Damian Kearns, who's a 3rd-year kid. Garrett Meyer is a 6th-year kid at running back. And so we feel pretty good about that position. All those guys have played, and they played a lot in the MIAA. I think Montrez was our 2nd leading rusher last year. The next one is wide receiver core. We returned both starting wide receivers from the previous. Now, we did lose 2 out of the top 4 receivers this year, but our 2 starters are back. Every single tailgate spot sold out with a waiting list. Okay, we've got Loper flags flying on game day. Let's go, huh?
Yeah.
All right. And hey, we've got to keep this momentum going, and most of that's on us, and we know that. All right, but I sure do appreciate the support, and come watch the Lopers, man. You're not going to be disappointed, I promise. Okay, so thank you. Is there any questions I can answer for you? I knew it, Bob. Yes, Bob. Here,
How do you feel about the depth, Coach? I mean, it all comes down to depth in your offensive and defensive lines. How do you feel about that?
Bob, I feel as good this year as I've had any year that I've been here. Okay, here's a good example. We go to Joplin, Missouri. We're going to take anywhere from 9 to 10 defensive linemen. Okay, where in the years past we took 6 to 8. You know what I'm saying? Now some of those kids probably don't play a lot, but they can play. You know what I'm saying? Offensive line, we're still kind of battling it out, to be honest with you. I mean, we've got young men that can play, and then, it's a kind of hard decision in regards to who the top 20 is. I'm sorry, the top 10 is. And I really feel good about our overall depth on both of those fronts, Bob. Okay, and it could change overnight, obviously, but moving in where we are right now, I feel really good about that. So, yes, Matt Coe.
So our offense has usually been around an H-back, and you talked about that H-back position. Who else is like the Z, X, Y?
Yeah, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Xavier Delk, who's been with us. We have Cody Nelson, who both of those are kind of our starting outside receivers. We have a young man, a redshirt freshman, actually a redshirt sophomore named Zorian Stanton out of Florida, who did a nice job for us last year. The other one is a young man out of Lincoln. He's a bigger receiver. He's 6'4", 205-pound guy. His named Grant McKenzie, and Grant's been a good surprise for us this semester. He's kind of been banged up, but now we've got him going, and I mean it's a bigger receiver that we can go to if we need to. And another thing too, with what we do running the football, he's a good blocker. The other person in that group is Landon Thompson, a kid out of Columbus. He's a nice. I mean he did a nice job for us last year.
So are you 60-40, 40-60, 80-20? Where are we at?
But run pass wise?
Yeah.
No. Golly, Matt. If we can go 80-20, I'm happy. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna run the ball. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna set up play action pass. And however, I think I think it's very evident in our conference. You got to run the ball to win games, but to score, you got to throw the ball a little bit too. So it's, we got to take our shots, but we're going to answer your probably 70-30. You know what I'm saying? 65-35. So yes, Wayne.
Depth behind TJ.
Yeah, man. I should have talked about that a little bit. I feel really good. We got a kid named Sean Johnson. If you walk out there, Brad probably saw him today. He looks very similar to TJ. If you were to walk him in the room and you didn't know who they were, they look like brothers. Okay. Anyway, Sean's we redshirted him last year, but very dynamic. Can throw the ball. I have no problem. Obviously he's not TJ Davis just because of the experience, but I feel really good about our backup quarterback position. After him, we have Ryan Green, who played for us last year. We also have Sean Ross, who played for us last year. But we've got two really dynamic guys in behind you. Now, are they TJ Davis? That's pretty hard to say. To say that, I'd probably be lying. You know what I'm saying? But I feel really good about where we are with the backup on those guys. Brad, I got one more here.
Are we thinking at all about a bus trip to an away game?
Mark Bauer, we were thinking about a bus trip for an away game.
We are thinking about it. The closest one is not Washburn. It would be
Missouri
Western.
Yeah.
It's just the costs of bus right now are pretty astronomical. So it just.
Hey, here's the great thing too, and I'll wrap it up with this. I'm getting the watch back there. Hey, here's the thing. Since I've been here, now you guys tell me how this works, all right? Since I've been here, I'm going on my 6th season. This is the first time since I've been here that we've had 6 home games. All right, now the powers that be in Kansas City in the MIAA office, I don't know how that all works, but this is the first year we'll have 6 home games, and that sure is nice, especially after the road trips that we had last year. I think we played 13 games, and 8 of them were on the road last year. So I'm excited to get home and play in Kearney, Nebraska. So, okay, guys. Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. Go Loper. Appreciate it.
Now we're going to get deep. We're bringing them all 4 up here, and you guys can ask some serious questions about the athletic department. Just a quick deal before we switch this over to you guys to ask questions. The Loper luncheons begin 2 weeks from yesterday. So on the 6th of September, on a Tuesday at Coke Stadium in the Wings Room, Billy Jack's will be providing the food. I don't know what the cost element is, but there will be a little cost. But that's where we'll kick off Loper luncheons with our fall coaches and that. All right, it's time for panel discussion. Please ask a couple questions for the whole crew to get the whole feel for the fall, okay? So here they are. It is Brady, Rick, Rob, and Josh.
Ask questions, please. Bob, from a scholarship standpoint for all of your programs, how are you guys setting on scholarships in general?
The NCAA max for both the men's and women's track and field team. If you have track and field, you don't have cross-country scholarships. Okay, so the NCAA max is 12.6. We're funded at about 4.5. Host UNK High School cross country invite to get us up to maybe 5.5, something like that. The norm in the MIAA is 10-ish. With Pitt, Central Missouri, I'm not sure about Northwest, but about 3 or 4 of the schools at the full 12.6. Pitt, and there's even a difference that Central has 12.6 scholarships worth of in-state tuition-based money, where Pitt is 12.6 equivalency, so they don't care if it's in-state, out-of-state, international, whatever, and now they're actually going into the NIL realm on top of it. So we're pretty proud of our teams that finish top 2, 3, that sort of thing in the conference.
That's it's somewhat a complicated question because of how different institutions count what's a scholarship and how they view academic scholarships and all those types of things. What I can tell you with volleyball is the NCAA equivalency maximum is 8. We're institutionally funded at about 6.5-ish, and we are privately funded for pretty much the rest up to that 8. Now, I am viewing that 8 as based on in-state cost. If we recruit some out-of-state student athletes, which we do, then sometimes that's more actual money. It's not more equivalencies. So it's a little bit of a game that you have to play, and there's some fundraising involved, but we're situated pretty well. Could always be better, but things are pretty good. And in the MIAA with volleyball, most institutions are fully funded in volleyball. There may be one or two that are not quite up to their 8. And again, a little bit of that depends on how they view in-state, out-of-state, and all those sorts of things.
While Rob's getting ready to talk, I'm going to throw in, so that my answer didn't sound totally negative. I'm fairly convinced through recruiting and even my eldest daughter who made trips to State, Missouri Southern, and that sort of thing, the UNK for a top-end academic student has more academic scholarship available than anybody else in the MIAA. So, like our distance squad is full of future doctors who are really smart, and so they have good scholarship packages. It's just my part of the scholarship is a small piece of it.
So NCAA allows us to have up to 9.9 full scholarships for women's soccer. We are currently funded at 7.3, but like Brady said, I'm starting to dive more into what the academic scholarships that the school offers and how we can utilize that, particularly with trying to recruit internationally. That changes the price range just because they have to have a different type of insurance for kids to come here. It has to be covered in a different way. So, we're trying to utilize the academic side, and then with me just getting here in April, trying to figure out different ways to go to fundraisers, help raise some funds for the school. Obviously, trying to follow what the other coaches up here have done because they've done a phenomenal job in helping fund their program any way they can.
I'm set up pretty much the same. I think that right now we're funded at about, the maximum amount is 36 full scholarships for football in Division II. We currently are funded through the university and Riches, we get foundation money through different scholarships and endowments that have been set up, and we're funded at about 28. Okay, now, my man Brad Koenig, all right, Bob Lammers, Rand Peterson. I mean, this year, we went in and the Loper Backer Bank, where we knocked it out of the park, and a lot of you guys were there. All right, this will be the first year that our gun is loaded at full of 36, and we can go in there and we can, this is the first year we're 36 full scholarships to where we can go in. And I'm gonna tell you this, guys, the university funds us, and then the community and what we raise on our backer night, I mean, it's huge. And so we're 36 this year, but that's by the great, by the people sitting in this room, okay? And I'm super appreciative of that. Another thing that weighs in is our school has helped us out. There's a scholarship called the New Nebraskan, okay? And the New Nebraskan, what it is, a young man or young lady coming from out of state to in-state will automatically get their out-of-state tuition waived. All right, and see what that does, that already knocks off their out-of-state tuition to get us to in-state. So we're, Nebraska has a set amount of kids, and we've got to if we want to increase enrollment as a university, we've got to go to other locations, and that's really helped not only the sports programs, and really stretch our dollar, but it's helped, obviously it's a goal to help raise enrollment at UNK. So that's where we're at, so. We'll take another question here, Rich.
Bob?
Yes, sir.
It was mentioned about NIL money. Are you seeing much of that happening at the Division II level?
I answer this all the time. I get this question. This is the number one question I get these days. Here's the thing about name, image, and likeness on our level. Okay, there's a lot of very good NFL players that don't get contract deals. Okay. Now, they say, people always ask you, are you for it, you're not for it? I'll tell you this, I'm kind of for it on our level. All right, here's the reason why. All right, the extent of our NIL money, all right, especially for some people around us is, TJ Davis runs a sandwich 2 times a week. You know what I'm saying? That's not all bad, in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? That helps us. You know what I'm saying? Now, I kind of have my own personal opinion about all the big stuff, and I don't like it. But that's not, I can't handle that. But so the name, image, and likeness stuff for us is very small on our level. And, you know, I hope it stays that way, to be honest with you. You know, if somebody wants to come in and feed our kids or, you know, give them a little bit of, maybe a little bit of money here and there to do something, I'm all for it. But I'd like to really stay away from the bigger money. So, anybody else want to jump in on that?
I'll take one.
All right.
I mean, we're probably similar in a lot of ways. The one area where it's maybe affected some of our athletes a little bit is it allows them, if they want to go run a camp or a clinic or work with some young people and do lessons or something like that. They can't work one-on-one with them, but they can work with certain age groups and things like that. And they can be paid for those things, whereas prior to the NIL, they were not allowed to do that. So it's opened up a few doors for them that way. But so far we're similar. We don't have anybody knocking our doors down as far as giving somebody an endorsement deal or giving them a new car or any of that stuff yet.
I would say the challenge for us could be, I haven't seen it completely come to fruition yet, but is when I'm recruiting against a Division I school, the Division I walk-on that I might be offering something to. There's one that I can think of right now. I woke up the morning, last Monday, first day of practice. It was first day of practice for everybody, D1, D2, D3. I saw the guy that I recruited who walked on at a D1 school that's a couple hours from here. The kid has never been to a practice in his life. And his Twitter, when I opened up Twitter that morning, it was his little ad for the wristband company that he was doing NIL with. And I'm thinking, okay, are those sorts of things going to hurt me in recruiting long term? Because it'll amount to nothing, but man, it'll sound really good in the recruiting process. So we'll see how that plays out. But when I saw that, it really struck me how you have done nothing. And you're going to get your 15 cents worth of NIL today.
He'll end up in the portal.
Yeah, right. We'll get him back eventually.
His cousin's on our team, so
I know there's been some upgrades to the Health and Sports Center with the new scoreboard and the addition of the wrestling weight room. Any new changes at Foster or other facilities? Will benefit you guys?
Hey, we got a nice little facility. A lot of people in this room help. We fundraise, and if you guys don't know anything about Foster Field, there's 3 levels. There's a press box level. There's a first level. There's a middle level in there, a second floor, and we've put together a nice little fundraising campaign to get the second floor done. And soccer and football is going over there. And what those are, there's meeting rooms over there. There's coaches' offices, and there's going to be a players' lounge to where our athletes will have a place over in the second floor of the stadium to go over there and have meeting space. And that's where we'll do all our meetings. We have a team meeting room in there. And, we're fired up about that. September 9th, when it's all done, it's all completed. We're just waiting on furniture. So the last we heard is they're assembling on September 9th. That's the last text message I got. So that's another addition that's going to make us better.
Along with Foster Field, our big next phrase is to take the old scoreboard and make it a video board. Kind of get with the times a little bit. And the old scoreboard's on its last leg, right, Mark?
Scoreboard and the sound system.
It's all in the boom. So we want to modernize all that stuff here, and that's our next wave of what we will do. And we have a pretty good jump on it, but we're not to the finish line yet, and we're still going out to donors and asking for their support for that.
Interesting question, hopefully. You guys each manage a lot of young men and young ladies, and when you have issues with them, as they're going to be, do you find that the team leaders take care of those kind of issues more than you guys have to do it? Since they're scattered all over the campus, I assume there's no sports dorms, but just issues and things like that.
Well, I think I'll answer it now. You want to take this one?
Now you
I think as your program develops, I think, if coaches aren't having, basically, I think these guys can back me up on it. And in athletic teams, people being on time, make sure they're where they need to be. That seems very, very small. However, every one of these coaches has a routine for their athletes. And to be successful, you have to hold them accountable with that routine. And I think the sign of good programs is when coaches don't necessarily have to hold those guys to like the accountability piece is when the players do. And so, you know, I've started to see that a little bit in my program, you know what I'm saying, or a lot in my program. And, you know, the less we have to do with that kind of stuff, we can concentrate on other stuff. So, now the bigger stuff, I'll pass that to Rick, all right? So, that's where we are as a program.
No, I think Coach is absolutely right. You know, being new in the program, that was one of the biggest things that we really preached for the first few months, which is accountability and discipline. And if you're disciplined, you're going to be accountable and vice versa. So I didn't pick captains until this past week. And I waited because I wanted to see who was going to be the leaders to hold their teammates accountable. Oddly enough, there was a junior that was voted by the entire team for a captain over 11 different seniors who had been there for 4 years. The reason why, she went to every workout throughout the summer. She did every single training session in the program that I sent her. She's been on time every single day. She's organized every single team event, and she's led by example, not just verbally, but with actions. So, you know, I followed something that Coach Lynn does, which is a leadership council inside of his team, and it's showing. So, you know, I can only hope that it's going to continue in that direction.
I'll just real briefly, there's no question that when those things are handled by the players, things work out best. When we talk to them on a regular basis about being their own support system and certainly the leadership within the team, setting a culture that creates fewer of those problems. And one of the things, and we talk to them about it all the time, I try to remind them really every weekend, whether we're getting off the bus or whether it was a home game, please know Sunday texts. Sunday texts are bad, aren't they? You get a text on Sunday.
You know what's even worse?
Hey, are you free? When are you free tomorrow in your office? Those are bad. Those are usually not a good.
You know, a really bad text or Sunday morning about 2 o'clock a.m.
But you know, these are our young student athletes, and they make mistakes, and sometimes, you know, it's helpful to remember. You know, I was a young student athlete at one point in time, and you know, so they're going to make mistakes, and you try to limit the damage and make sure everybody learns from them. And fortunately, that starts by recruiting, you know, good people who have their heart in the right place, and we've been fortunate over the years.
Anson Dorrance is the head women's soccer coach at the University of North Carolina, and probably behind, or maybe along with John McDonald and probably John Wood, and that'd be the top 3 most successful coaches in NCAA history. And the one and only thing you ever hear Anson Dorrance speak on is differences between coaching men and coaching women, and the different dynamics involved. And basically, because he was a men's coach who, at the early stages of the Title IX era, they said, hey, coach the women's team, and he was terrible at it. Well, now he's won 20-some national titles as a soccer coach, but he was terrible at it at first, and so he had to learn on the fly how to handle those two situations differently. And I heard him speak at a high school coaching clinic down in Lincoln, the one that in early August every year. Heard him speak at that about 20 years ago, and I still have the notes from that, and I probably mentally refer to those notes daily. So I don't know if that really answers your question about how I handle discipline-related things, but you know, the women, you know, sit around in a little circle before practice, and come and sit down, and I talk with them and everything, and then once they go off and do their thing, I say, all right, man, come here, take a knee. And then stand up, always stand up and talk to the guys. So I can list a dozen other things, just differences in how I interact with the two. And the men the older guys have to be able to coach younger guys, because I've spent a lot of time with one-on-one conversations with the women, because that's what you do. So.
One more question? Or none? All right. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, hold on, we're not done yet. We got one more thing. Great job. To do the closing message, Doc, pretty anxious, aren't you? Please welcome Lucas Starr.
Nothing like getting up to talk when everybody's clearly trying to leave.
Oh, yes.
Coaches, thank you for taking time to do this. I know you guys are busy, to say the least. Coach Lynn's rolling in. He's like, I just got off the football field, I haven't eaten anything. Haven't seen your kids today, probably. Thank you for making time to do this. We appreciate it very much. Thank you for coming. I look around this room, I see a lot of the same people that I see a lot of places, and it feeds the idea of what coaches were saying about how the community steps up to support this program. I mean, heck, we even got people from Lexington tonight, right? It's really great, but you know, I've had a privilege of being in most of the towns in the MIAA in my career. And Kearney is the best town in the MIAA. There is no question in my mind.
Absolutely.
It is easier to recruit to, right? Right? The institution, from an academic perspective, is the strongest school in the MIAA. We are so lucky to have the University of Nebraska-Kearney here in Kearney. And some great decisions that were made for our benefit some 19 years ago now that decision was made. Think of how lucky we are. Think of how this town would be different if that had not been the case. So that you come, you step up with your pocketbooks, with your support, bring other people to the mix too. Share on social media, do all those things. Tell the story so we can keep growing this idea around the University of Nebraska-Kearney being the leader in the MIAA.